Hi, this is Kim from KimberlyKoehler.com. I share jewelry tutorials and courses and workshops on how to make jewelry. Today I wanted to share a necklace I've been working on, and we're going to finish it up today. But I have been working on what I have called an intuitive necklace. So before I started this video, I wanted to go back and watch an old video I made. I used to make videos and I called them Emerging Creatively Tutorials TV, because that's what I called my business back then. And I did all these different episodes, and it was kind of like a little jewelry making show. So it was ECT TV episode 2, and they're still on my channel on YouTube here. And in that video, I was cleaning my workspace and I pulled out some beads that I really love, and I made the intuitive necklace. And I have been wanting to do this necklace again, just kind of for myself. So I went through my supplies and pulled out some things that I felt pulled to. And so here are the beads I felt pulled to that I felt like I wanted to make something with, plus a stone that I had previously wire wrapped but didn't end up using in a design. And then these are just some bigger stone beads. They're all gemstone beads. These are just round ones. And as you can see, I've kind of mostly already have made them into little wire wrapped bead links. So they're basically ready to go, I think. So in this case, there was actually a second motive for this necklace, and that's kind of that I've been busy, and then even when I've had time, I've lacked energy and motivation to actually move forward on any creative projects in general, and specifically jewelry projects. So I wanted to kind of get some supplies together that I could maybe work on just a little bit at a time so I could feel like I was making some sort of progress. So I pulled these beads, and I've just been kind of making them into individual wire wrapped bead links, which you kind of saw when I was showing you I've already been making. And now I do have an idea of which way I'd like this project to go, and so I'm going to finish it up and show you. But I was also kind of thinking that, you know, all of my jewelry pieces are intuitive jewelry pieces. So basically I don't have an idea of where the piece is going. I'm just going to gather some supplies and see what happens. But it hasn't always been that way. When I was real heavy into jewelry making and selling my jewelry, it was more, I usually almost always knew what my end goal was. And even now when I'm making tutorials or classes, I know what the end result is going to be, so I'm choosing my supplies based on that. So this is a departure from that, in that I've just kind of grabbed these supplies and started wire wrapping and deciding where I would go from there. And I think making a necklace in this way, or you can make a bracelet, whatever piece of jewelry in this way, has allowed me to have some creative space, get out of my head, and really just take my time and make a piece. It takes all the pressure off too. So it's not like I had this whole grand scheme in mind ahead of time. I am just going for it now. So all that being said, let's put this necklace together. And so now I'm just going to set them out the way I want to put them together in the necklace, which is different than the original intuitive necklace from episode 2 of ECT TV, because that was stringing, and I literally just randomly was stringing beads onto the string and just seeing what I came up with at the end. This one is a little bit different in that I pulled all the supplies just using my gut, but without knowing what I was going to actually make. But now I am going to kind of, I guess, put them in a little design and make a decision. And also you may notice they're all in the same color palette. So these beads actually are not all from the same set, even though they look very similar, but they all go together. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be completely funky and crazy, or if you want it to be, it can be. If you're more into stringing or something like that, I encourage you to go back and look at that old video I made. I'll even post it below. I'll even put a link to it below so you can check it out if you like. Okay, so the main part of this necklace is a wire wrapped bead link. So it's a bead that there are two loops on either side. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to connect them all. I'm just actually using jump rings, so it's pretty simple in theory. So I am using 20 gauge wire. This is Parawire. If you watch my videos, this is pretty much exclusively what I use anymore, but it's similar to like half hard wire. It's round. You can get Parawire in lots of different colors. I usually use the silver, and we're just going to cut off a piece. This is about 6 inches. It's going to vary depending on your bead and how long the bead is. So you're going to need a few inches longer than your actual bead. I probably have too much wire here. I often say it's better to have too much wire than not enough wire, because if you don't have enough wire, you're going to waste the whole thing. If you have a little bit too much, you're going to waste a little bit of wire, but it's still a little bit better. And then I have round nose pliers, so they're pliers that have the round barrels. And you're just going to hold the wire in the middle of the pliers, about 1.5 inches down. And you want to make all your loops the same size, so I have often suggested putting a mark on your round nose pliers with a Sharpie, so you can just follow that line throughout a project. It will wipe off eventually, but at least for that project it should be good, and then your loops will all be the same for that. We're going to bend the top down, form a loop. So we have this loop. Now you'll see it's not really on center, it's kind of off to the side. So we're going to fix that. I'm going to hold the loop in my chain nose pliers. You can use just flat nose pliers, anything that doesn't have teeth on the inside. And we're going to go around once. As we go around, I just pull the wire out straight. And I go around once, and then you'll see, even though this is bent down here, the loop is out straight on top of the wire here. Then we can just switch hands, and then I like to use bent nose pliers. We're going to go around 2 more times. And you could use any kind of pliers. I like bent nose because they kind of act as a second set of hands. And we're just going to try to keep the wraps close together and straight, which I have not done here, so I'm going to show you how to fix this. So I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers and push them together here. You might have to do it on both sides. Okay. I'm just bending this little piece down around a little bit more, and then I'm going to take my wire cutters, and we're going to cut off the end, making a flush cut. And then just to make sure this little piece isn't poking up, I like to run my finger over it, and then you can just take your chain nose pliers and kind of do this little motion to make sure it's good. So that is one side. Okay, so I'm going to pick one of my beads out of my little dish here. Cute little moon dish, has little flowers. Got at the thrift store for 99 cents. Anyway, I'm just going to choose one of my beads. Again, I'm actually not even thinking about the final product at this point. It's the final, the final necklace. I'm just choosing a bead. I choose this little kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a robin's egg blue. And then we're going to, again, hold the wire just above the bead then. So about 1/4 inch above. So yeah, I have like way too much wire here. And do the same thing again. So wrap the wire around, make a loop, hold the loop in your pliers, your chain nose pliers, go around one time, straighten out the bead. So again, it's straight above, and then we are going to switch hands. And so it's sometimes easier to just use your hands if you have a long tail like I do in this case, or again, you could just use your bent nose pliers to do the twisting. Same thing, we're going to trim off the excess, making a flush cut. So that's just using the flat side of your wire cutters toward the work, toward what you're leaving behind. And then again, I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers and just make sure that's in. I'm gonna make sure it's all straight, and then we have a wire wrapped bead link. And so now I'm just gonna start to put together my necklace. So I know that this is going to be the middle piece. So this wire wrapped stone I have, and then these two bigger pieces, and then we're gonna go smaller from there. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. So I'm using jump rings to attach everything, so I know that I'm going to need a bunch of these. So sometimes it's easier just to open up a bunch before you even start getting in a groove. So let me show you how to open one. You probably know how to do this already, but I'm going to show you. So this is a jump ring. It has a little like a little slit in it up here. If you can't see it, usually if you run your finger over the jump ring, you can find it that way. And okay, so in one hand I have my chain nose pliers, and I am positioning them just to the right of that little slit in the jump ring. In my left hand, it doesn't matter which hand you do which with, I'm using my bent nose pliers. You could also just use two pairs of chain nose pliers, or if you have flat nose, anything, like I said before, anything that doesn't have ridges on the inside, also not round nose pliers. And so you're not going to go out to open them, we're going to go forward and backward. So you're going to take one pair toward you, one pair away from you. And so the jump ring is now open, but it's still in its circular shape. So you see that? So let's just attach something. So then we'll put two loops together here, and then to close it, we're just going to do the opposite. So get lined back up again, and I like to just kind of go back and forth a couple times, and then you probably even heard that. You can usually hear it click right into the right spot. And then we have a closed jump ring. So that's the first of many. Like I mentioned, I'm going to actually open a whole bunch of jump rings, and this is a general gist of how you make this necklace, so I might just speed this up so you don't have to watch the whole thing, or we will jump ahead. Okay, so I just kind of went ahead and almost finished this necklace. So I just attached all the beads. So I have the kind of the stone in the middle that I wire wrapped, and then the two bigger ones, and then these are smaller than these, but they're bigger than these last couple up here. And then I also thought I would just add a little, it's hard to see maybe laying flat, but a piece that kind of gives it a little extra something here. So I'm just gonna, these are the smaller beads, and I just strung some across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did 5 across here, and I think I measured that they would go right above this first bead here. So I'm going to attach on one side, and another jump ring. I did open a bunch ahead of time, but I guess I was one short. And we're going to do this side. So it's the big bead and the next smaller bead and then this, so do that same spot here. Oops. Let's see what we got here. So I'm just gonna add a lobster clasp. Just add it in the same way. There's a little hole there. Put it through your jump ring, close the jump ring, and then usually I like to put like a jump ring on the other end too. You could just hook it into that last hoop, but I don't know. Just like to do a little bit, one more jump ring. Makes it a little more adjustable too, I guess. We'll hook that in. And then we have our necklace. So this is my new take on an intuitive necklace. I didn't actually come up with this concept until I started putting the pieces together. And we learned how to make a wire wrap bead link and how to open and close jump rings. And so I'd love to see what you come up with. So if you have a bunch of beads already and you haven't like looked through them in a while, I'd say just dig through and see what you find and what you might want to make into a piece of jewelry today. Or if you are kind of new, maybe you want to head to a bead store, even a thrift store. I often find necklaces to take apart at a thrift store and see what you find and start working on something and see what comes up. If you want a little more direction, I have a great class called Wire Wrapping for Beginners. I teach you how to make a whole bunch of different components, and then I give recipes, is what I'm calling it. Recipes on how to make different pieces. So putting the components together to make jewelry pieces, and in this way you can really show your own style for jewelry making. So I'll put a link down below. It's a class that you can buy anytime and get started immediately. And if you're not quite sure about that yet, I also have a free resource. It's called Intro to Wire Wrapping, and it's a 5-day class where you get the very basics of getting started with the proper wire wrapping, some safety techniques and different tips, and then you'll make a project. So I will link everything I mentioned down below in the description, and I will see you next time.